Well, hey everybody. Let's do some gardening today. I have not actually been in the garden for a while doing any kind of like extended stuff, some weed pulling here and there and a little bit of trimming here and there. But for the most part, I've not had a proper day in the garden. Now, I don't know if this will be a whole day because the weather is looking a little iffy later in the day, but it's a good day to get out there and do some planting. So the first thing we're going to do right now, which is why we're so bumpy here, is we are going to go get some plants. But I don't think we're going to the kind of place you're thinking of when I say that. Well, here I am picking up the plants. I actually thought there were going to be some other ones too, but this is all bellwort. Nice little shade plant. She took a tree came out, and so one of her shade gardens is now a sun garden. But while I'm here, check out her heptacodium. This is the species. This is the same straight species that I planted. This was planted here 3 years ago. So these are the white flowers just starting to open, and then there'll be these beautiful red calyxes that stick around. But it's such a beautiful tree. It's put on a lot of size since we planted this 3 years ago. Pretty amazing. Okay, anyway, so Passalong plants. And my mom, being a proper Midwestern mom, has a bag of bags. So she always has bags to put plants in, which is always how she'll give you a plant, because she digs them and then you must come get them immediately and plant them. You get a bag. You don't get a pot, you don't get soil, you get a bag. Perfect. So one of the reasons I picked up these plants for my mom is because I know that this shady border, it needs assistance. It needs help. I keep talking about this in particularly the garden stroll videos. It is the forgotten area, right? Like, I keep adding things here and there, but I'll admit that it's one of the few places, it probably is one of the few places that I never really drew it out. And that's because, I was always designing this area at the same time as other areas, and the budget was going other places. So it's slowly getting better over the years, but it still needs a lot of work. So one of the reasons I wanted this bellwort is because even though I used to think of this as a spring ephemeral, it's really not, because you do see the foliage all year. It's beautiful in spring. The foliage is sort of Solomon seal-esque. And it's fine. Obviously this foliage is, on the ones that my mom gave me, is super crisp, and actually so is mine a little bit. I mean, just at the end of the year it does get a little bit tired. But I'm going to add this to this area, and I think it's probably better to use this a little bit more towards the front, because I think it's just going to get lost as we go kind of down the hill here a little bit. So I'm just going to kind of set some of these around so you can get an idea of we all can get an idea of where these might fit. I've got quite a bit of Geranium macrorrhizum growing down here. And also, like, I've got goats. I've got a lot of things in here. I've got goat speed in here. This is, I forget which goldenrod this is. This is a really nice little goldenrod that's native here and put itself here. I like it quite a lot. This is it Kirigami? Kiroshina? Yellow wax spells, and this will get big, so I need to not crowd that too much. I mean, honestly, the Geranium macrorrhizum, as usual, has been put here as a placeholder, and so it's fine to remove that to put these in. Well, I mean, anything's fine to remove, to put things in if you want, but this is my brain. I mean, I'm thinking a nice big sort of drift in here without, like I've got some nice ferns there, but maybe here that would work nice with ferns. I did bring a bag of biochar over, which I'm going to use, throw a little bit in each hole and just kind of around the area. Biochar is proving to be pretty good deterrent for jumping worms for me. Not proven, this is anecdotal stuff, but it is one of the things they've been looking at. I feel like it helps a lot. I also know that it really helps with moisture retention in the soil, and this part of the garden can certainly use it because it is dry over here. I mean, it's certainly dry because I've got 2 spruces over here, so you can imagine how much water they suck up. So it's that plus not a lot of rain gets through here because this canopy is a little bit open, but not a lot to get a lot of rain in here. So any amount of moisture retention I can add in this soil while I'm working it is a good thing. Let me just show you the soil here. So to give you an idea what the soil's like over here, this is the soil. It is really, I mean, look at how sandy it is. It's very sandy over here. So moisture is obviously an issue over here. Most of the carex growing through here is, I think, carex rosea. It maybe wasn't the best choice, you know. There's so much to learn about carex. And so, you know, as you learn more about them, you realize that in some places maybe you should have used a different one, but it's alive. It isn't really like spreading. So perhaps sometime I'll add in something new. So right behind me here, I have a little lungwort plug. And you know, that's the problem over here, is that this is very much a exercise in survival of the fittest over here. If I had done this garden and by the way, this is a good lesson in the gives and takes with how you create a garden. If I had done this garden the way I did the gardens that have worked the best for me, which is to say, plant it and plant it all, spend basically all your time and money focusing on that area, plant it thickly, and then edit down the road, that would have been a far better way to do this. Because what we have here is just a constant fight against weeds. And so therefore none of the plants really establish that well. And they will establish, but that's why it's taking forever. So this bellwort, or uvularia, is sort of a woodland edge plant. So it probably would appreciate, again, a little slightly moister soil, but it does grow over there for me. All right, so sometimes when I don't have a spot where this needs to go, I will take this. This is gonna sound bad, and I'll chuck it somewhere. Sometimes it'll root all on its own, and if it doesn't, that's okay too. This, let me get this, make sure we can focus on this here. So, oh, don't you run away. The second you drop them, they will go for the hills, man. Okay, this is a jumping worm. He's not jumping too much here, but you can tell he's quite active, kind of moves around like a snake, sort of. The way I mostly recognize these guys, oh, see how he's starting to thrash around a little bit? He's getting mad. Is this clitellum, goes all the way around this white band. is quite pronounced and goes all the way around, but for me, it's the iridescence. They are very iridescent, and to my knowledge, I've not seen any other worms that are iridescent like this. So that one's actually not that big. That's pretty good. I mean, I'm surprised he's not that big. Let's put him somewhere where he can be little disposed of properly. Oh, I dropped him. Ugh. Oh, here he is. So I'm actually going to put a sprinkler on this area, but I actually have the hose moving around to some of the trees right now. So when the sprinkler is free, I'll bring it over here and use a sprinkler for this whole area when I run the sprinkler, I'm probably running it for a minimum of 2 to 3 hours, sometimes even more than that. So as long as I'm over here, I'm going to take care of something I have been putting off. Here, I need to deal with this situation. All of this is Ligularia seedlings. Now, I'm loving the Ligularia here. That's great. All these seedlings could wreak total havoc here. So while I don't mind them along the edge here, I don't want them coming super far up into this bed. So, and trust me, I'm not going to do a good job of removing these. I'm just going to do a fair job at it, so there'll be plenty left over. But I'm going to just like kind of randomly dig out like a bunch of these, just so that we keep an eye on this population here. I don't want to create a total nightmare for myself here. It's not a surprise to me, but that this Ligularia is spreading, by the way, because the way I got most of this was from my sister-in-law, who was digging up seedlings. So, fortunately, the soil here is quite loose. So, if I can just get a shovel under there to sort of loosen it up a touch, it's pretty easy to pull out. In fact, the other thing I'm going to do, now that I see what's happening over here, I'm going to bring the flame weeder over here, and I'm going to hit all the little ones, because there are some tiny ones that are only about, the leaves are only about that big on, and I'm going to hit the little ones with the flame weeder over here. That'll take care of that. Now, I do have some Canadian ginger mixed in here, and I don't want to take that out. So I'm actually standing in the creek, in quotes, here right now. This area kind of got, in 2020 we had a huge flood, and a lot of the gravel road came down our driveway and filled this area up. And so it's quite shallow now, which is not optimal, but also getting a machine in here to dig this out is, without ruining a garden, is basically impossible. So the water does come up over the edges quite a bit when it is flowing, which is probably why these Ligularia are as happy as they are. Okay, that's this area. Like I said, the flame weeder's the way to go with those Ligularia seedlings. All right, on to the next. Okay, so now we're over here by the driveway, and we're working in this garden. And, you know, you wouldn't think this garden is looking that good because there's a lot of flopping. I think we just need like a light cleanup in here, and then we're gonna plant something in here. There's some weeds that need to be dealt with in the middle there, and like, for instance, this Veronicastrum, this particular one is shot. The rest of them are looking fine. This one's all crispy. And, you know, there's this globe thistle in the front here. This is star frost. That should be dealt with a little bit. And, you know, there's a dahlia here. So there's some stuff that I think we can do a quick cleanup here, make this area look really good, and then clear up space for what I'm going to plant there. This, by the way, if you don't follow the garden strolls, you don't know what the heck is going on here. This is compass plant, Silphium, it's so long, Terabithanaceum, something like that. And and it's here for the leaves. But these are the flowers. It tends to be a big time reseeder, so you do want to be careful with it. And right now it's flopped over kind of into the road, which I sort of like. I feel like it makes people slow down a little bit and stay away from the garden. But I'm waiting for the seeds to ripen on that. And then actually we own about 3 feet on the other side of the road. So I'm going to throw those right along the edge and just see if those might take. I'd rather look at those than all of the Canadian goldenrod that's over there, which by the way is native. It's just a very aggressive plant. You can tell it's everywhere over there. So I'm going to toss some of those over there and see what happens. So let's just get in here and do hopefully a light cleanup in here. So I found this plant stake at AgriFrames, and I've been trying it out in different places because I think the design is kind of ingenious. So you see we've got I hope you can see the wavy lines here. I wish it was a little wider, but you see the wavy lines. And what that does is allow plants to kind of nestle in there. My problem with plant stakes, like those big sort of U-shaped ones or anything like that, is that it tends to lead to such an unnatural looking plant that I thought this might work better. And I have been using it. I actually put it by some Pygnathema muticum and it looked pretty good over there. I'm going to just try staking up this globe thistle right here to see if that looks natural or how it works, just to give it a try. Globe thistle is a controversial plant. A lot of people do not like it because it kind of looks like a thistle. And I can respect that opinion. I do like it, but I can understand that plants that are a nuisance to you, and certainly thistle is for me, might not be interested in growing an ornamental plant that is not a nuisance. Well, you know, I'm not sure it looks great, to be honest. I think the reason it doesn't look great is because it's right here at the front. If there were other plants behind it, this would look way more natural. While we consider if that's an improvement or not, I'm going to show you the plant that we're adding to this area. And I've got a good spot for it right there. It's this. This is Vernonia Prairie Princess. Vernonia ironweed is the common name for this. I have 2 different varieties of this. One is Summer Swan Song and one is maybe Iron Butterfly, growing in another part of the garden. And it really is a great plant. It's blooming, like just starting to bloom now. So this is a late season flower, really good for pollinators. Very easy care plant. You don't need to fertilize it or anything. So this is new from Proven Winners. Here's the stats on this. Full sun, 26 to 30 inches. North American native, deer and rabbit resistant. 26 to 30 inches tall, spacing is 30 inches basically. Hardy in zones 4 to 9. The one thing I will tell you is that for those of you in sort of cooler climates like mine, this is very late to emerge in spring. And so that's how I ended up with 2 actually, because I thought I lost my other one and replanted it, and then sure enough it showed up. So mark this one well. I'm going to put this plant tag right next to it because you might lose it otherwise. So don't get too hasty about thinking it didn't make it. It could very well just be taking its time. It's not as late to emerge as something like butterfly bush or hardy hibiscus for me, which are super late, but it's later. I will say the soil in this part of the garden is much nicer than where we were just working. That's in part due to the way it started, but also this was amended before I ever planted up this garden. And I also added compost to the entire, most of that part of the garden we were in did not get it, but much of the rest of the garden got about a 2-inch layer, 2 to 4-inch layer of compost this year. And I do think it was worth the time, effort, and money to do that. Okay, where's my plant? So, you know, I know that this garden probably looks a little, some of you are probably looking at that going, this looks like a real mess. It does, to a certain extent. But, you know, keep in mind that this is not a garden that anyone ever walks in. This is appreciated from far away and from, you know, if anything, the edges. I think that looks pretty good. Okay. There's one thing I want to add to this garden. It's a bit more Ceslaria, which I think looks so good in here. I like that grass a lot. Okay, done. So here's that Ceslaria at the front of the garden. I love it so much. I think it looks really, really good. And I think we could use more of that in here, but we'll see what it looks like in spring. I mean, a lot of things here are not looking their best right now. So we'll analyze that come then, but I don't think I could go wrong adding more. Now the last thing I'm going to do is add some alliums to this area and divide the ones that are already here. So these alliums, this is Millennium, are clearly over for the year, but this whole area, I still think it looks good, but I think it looked really, really good when they were in flower. And what I'd like to do is extend these alliums past, they're just kind of at the front of the bed now, and I'd like to get them deeper into the bed. And so what I'm going to use for that are actually these. This is Bobblehead. Bobblehead is quite a bit bigger than Millennium or Serendipity. So let me show you the comparison there. Okay, so this is Serendipity on the right, Bobblehead on the left. Serendipity is very comparable to Millennium because it's actually a sport of Millennium. So it blooms a slightly different time, but in terms of form and height, all of those things, it's about the same. Bobblehead is going to get quite a bit bigger, and you can see that the flowers are probably 2 to 3 times the size, and 30 to 32 inches on Bobblehead, and this is going to be like 14, 15. They say 15 to 20 on Serendipity. So 33% bigger on the Bobblehead. I saw these growing at Walter's Gardens, and they were so pretty, even though the blooms were spent. But key thing to note here is that this flower is just starting to go over, but the color is, you know, a very light, you know, light shade compared to the darker Serendipity. I would prefer it darker, but I love the form on this one. So I'm going to add those in throughout this garden here. And then, because I really want to, I'm really, really happy with how this is going, I'm actually going to divide the Millenniums that are here, many of which I actually just planted last year. So I'm going to divide some of these to fill up this area a little bit more, make the most of what I already have here. So after I got those bobbleheads planted towards the back to bring that height to the back, I went about dividing some of the existing alliums that are there. So it's pretty easy. Dig up a clump. These are very easy to divide. And this first clump was pretty tight. So I just went in there with my little hand spade and cut that apart. I ended up getting 4 out of it. You could have even divided these down into more, but dividing this into quarters seemed like about right to me. Then as long as I was dividing things, I dug up a few more clumps from around various parts of the garden and pulled them out. This one actually came apart and just sort of fell apart, so I was actually able to just pull this one into sections. I always knock off all the soil when I'm pulling something out, so I'm not taking away soil from the garden. But like I said, this one just pulled into pieces. And then once I had divided a bunch of those alliums, I just went to putting them back. Some went back right into the hole where they came out of, but it was obviously a smaller clump. This way, I'm sort of spreading these out a little bit farther and extending that view of those. And when we're all done, you can see that I've got those bobbleheads toward the back. I've created bigger drifts of the Millennium alliums that were sort of towards the front and stretched those around the side and into the back a little bit, actually. So while I was doing this, I noticed a couple other changes I want to make to this garden. First of all, I want to cut down that low branch on that spruce. You know, when you start limbing up spruces, the lower branches hang down lower. So you end up kind of having to continue to remove branches. So we are going to limb that up. There's going to be a little bit more sun under there and a little bit more clearance to make those things that I planted towards the back make a little bit more sense. And I'm also going to add in a few more of these pretty parasols, echinacea, that are growing in this garden because it's one that's done well for me and I quite like the look of it. I think it works really well with the alliums that are in here and some of the sedum and some of the phlox that are here as well. And that's the video, just a little bit of fall planting, moving things around. Anything I can do now is something I don't have to do in spring, and the plants have plenty of time to get established before we end up with frozen ground. As always, thank you for watching. Have a great day in your garden. And if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. See you soon.